Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's insightful webinar on a topic that's becoming increasingly critical in today's data driven world. That is why ETL testing is critical to data accuracy, automated versus manual. I'm Sneha Singh, Business Development Manager at SJ Tech, and I'll be your moderator for today. As data continues to grow in volume and complexity, ensuring its accuracy is no longer optional, it's essential, either through automated or manual testing. Maintaining the integrity of your ETL processes is vital for meaningful business insights. We are thrilled to have an expert in this field with us today. He is Mr. Kaushik, a database enthusiast and ETL specialist with extensive experience in SQL and quality assurance. He's coming from SDET Tech team. I'll just give you a basic brief about SDET. SDET, for the unversed, is a pure play software testing company providing holistic quality assurance. SDET is trusted by our esteemed client across the globe as their preferred QA testing partner. Since its inception in 2019, SDET has successfully delivered numerous client projects across industry and organization sizes such as healthcare, fintech, e-learning, retail, e-commerce, banking, insurance, and so on. So today, Varun will guide us through the complexity of ETL testing and help us understand the pros and cons of automated versus manual approach. Let's welcome Varun today. Hi, Varun.
Hello.
Thanks. So before we dive in, a quick reminder, feel free to drop your question in the chat and we'll address them during our Q&A session at the end. Without any further ado, over to you, Varun.
Thank you. Thanks, Neha. Hello, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. So, welcome to this webinar, and I'm very happy to share my insights over ETL testing to you all. So, we'll start with a very basic thing like what is ETL, and we'll go to the deep level of it and how we are doing the automation testing over the manual now, and what are major tools, what are major frameworks and techniques we usually use to automate our ETL testing. Okay, we break this session in three parts. I'll guide you about ETL testing and the importance of ETL testing, and in the second part I'll share you the all major tools and techniques currently we have in the market and like majorly used by the organizations. In the third part, we'll focus on manual versus ETL automation testing. Okay, so let's start with the first thing. So what is ETL? ETL is like extract transformation load, full form we know. Like as full form says, like we'll be extracting data from a source system, we'll transform it per the business rules and we'll load it to our final data warehouse. So why we need ETL testing? So basically, the final output of any ETL testing or data testing is a data. Okay, and that data, if it is a trustworthy data, a correct data, and a business can take decision on that data, and that decision in future they may not concern, okay, we took the decision basis of this data and this is not correct. That is where you need this ETL testing. Okay, so if I talk about the data accuracy, I mean why ETL testing is important and why we do ETL testing, like data accuracy, okay, the error handling, and the regulate. So few firms like healthcare and banking firms, they do have some regulatory compliance. Okay, so this ETL testing helps the organization with like regulatory, meet the regulatory and industry standards and having this trustworthy data. Okay, so in like in previous years when I have started my career, how we were doing the ETL testing is we were having the source database, we were having the target database, and we were comparing the data by writing simple SQL queries. Okay, like okay, select star from my source database and select star from my target database. But there are many challenges like at that time we faced. Okay, when data is coming in form of CSV, or when data is coming in form of flat files, but in the other side you have a data warehouse, okay, where you have to validate it. So the concern came around at that time is like, okay, how we'll compare, like it is a flat file or a CSV file, and we need to compare it with a database. So we requested developers, okay, if they can help us to load those CSVs into the database, the same database, and we can write our except queries or minus queries. But that was again a dependency on the developers. Okay, the other way around is like we were running the queries over the database, data warehouse, and extracting the results, keeping it in Excel, and were comparing the Excels. Okay, so that was very tedious task. Okay, that is the problem, like why this automation testing came into the picture. Because in manual testing, like if what data volume is too high, and you need to compare, you always think about, okay, we will sample the data and we'll compare. But again, there are chances like the data you are taking for a sample is not covering all the scenarios, maybe all not all the uh, business aspects. Okay, not being a human, like if you do if we talk about or compare it with the UI or other automation testings also, like you get to know, okay, in UI through automation you can compare, okay, through scripts you can compare a lot of scenarios, or like lot of in and outs or data outputs or inputs. But when you do it through manual way, you cannot do it. Okay, so let's talk about major tools and techniques. Okay, what usually we do have in current industry or current organization, the tools they are using. So there are two things here. Like one is ETL tool and one is BI tools or a reporting tool. Okay, in ETL tool, like earlier, we were having like Talent, Informatica, SSIS. Those were the tools used as an ETL tool, and the developers were creating the workflows, and we were testing those workflows. Those were on-prem tool. Now thing is like they are moved to the cloud. Okay, now we have AWS, Azure, and like GCP also. Okay, in Azure we have like ADF pipelines, Azure Databricks, which dev team and like dev team they are using as an ETL tool and loading data to the target data warehouse. So if I talk about the BI tools, the reporting tools, uh, I got a chance to work on multiple reporting tools in past, but when what I got to know after these many years, like there were some reporting tools like Business Object, a SAP tool, and a Burst reporting tool, and SSRS reports, Tableau reports, Salesforce reports, Power BI reports. But in current era, I would say like majorly organizations are using Power BI or Tableau, or I would say the Salesforce reporting. Okay, there were reports created in .NET also. Okay, earlier .NET or UI like JavaScript or something they used to create the reports. But major BI tools, if you want to consider, are like these Power BI and SSRS. Okay, so. For an ETL tester, if he wants to test a ETL end-to-end flow, he must know, he must know the ETL process. First of all, he or she should be excel in SQL, because behind ETL everything comes up on the data, and data. If you want to query, you need to know, you need to be excel in the SQL queries. Okay, if you are doing manual testing. We'll come later on the automation part, but I'm just talking about the manual now. So it starts from a source system. For an example, we have a source system, SQL database. We do have an Oracle source system also. We have CSV files. Okay, we have multiple source systems. Now data is moving to the data warehouse, which is a single source of truth. So data warehouse is like the area from where the final report will be generated for business stakeholders, and they'll be using it for their business decisions. Okay. Now data moved from sources to our data warehouse staging layer. Okay, there are multiple layers in ETL. So first, data will a single dump to the staging layer. Then from staging, there are multiple layers like landing layer and further landing to the target layer. Then the reporting layer, and final layer is the reporting layer through which Power BI will extract the data, or any reporting tool will extract the data. As an ETL tester, you need to make sure movement of data from source to these each layer. You need to have your scenarios ready. Major ETL test scenarios, if I talk about, I mean, these are very basic. Like you need to verify the count, you need to verify the data between source and target, if it's exact match or not. Okay, after it, you need to make sure there should not be any duplicacy. There should not be any data loss between when data move from source to target. There are all the constraints which were there in our source are correctly moved to here also. Like for an example, one column was a null constraint, yes, for in the source, but it is not in target. If nulls are coming, how we'll handle it? Okay, these are very basic scenarios. Now after this, when a data move from source to target, there is a very important thing. Every architect or a test architect, I mean solution architect, design their ETL process, they must fix the SCDs, the history, the slowly changing dimensions. So how you are keeping the history of your data? So suppose there is an account moving from source to target. In the very next day, in that account, the account address got changed, and tomorrow again we run the job, and that data is coming. Now we want to keep the old data, or we don't want to keep that old data. To keeping that data, there are multiple ways. SCD type 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I won't go to the deep, but to maintain the history, we use this SCD. We need to test it at first layer, from source, from staging to the landing layer. So once your these testing things are done, the major important things which we need to validate are the transformations. Okay, those transformations usually provided by the business analyst or the solution architect. They design that mapping document, provide to you. You need to use that mapping document while you are doing the ETL testing. So in that mapping document, you will find the source table, the source column, target column, and the target table, and a business logic. So that business logic, for an example, if I talk about that business logic, may be in fiscal year 23 and 24, we want the data to be calculated on basis of some paid data. Okay, so this is a business logic, and you need to test it while you are writing your SQL queries. You need to make sure that same transformation written over the mapping document should be there in your SQL queries. That's how you will verify data from the second layer to the third layer, which is target. And that's the layer where our facts and dimensions create. Okay. So developer writes their stored prop to create this fact and dimension tables. You will have this mapping document which you will use, and using that mapping document, you will also write the SQL queries, and you will test the fact tables and the dimension tables. So fact and dimension are two type of tables in ETL. Okay, so usually in fact you will have data which is aggregated data. Okay, and the data coming from multiple dimensions. Okay, so the primary keys of all the dimensions will be there in the fact, so that you can easily join, and there are some aggregations. For an example, if I talk about dimensions, we can have customer, we can have product, we can have transaction, we can have order. These type of table can be considered as dimension. Now there is a table sales, which actually give you final output. One customer, he ordered how many products, okay, how many times he ordered that product, how much currency he spent over that product. If we want to know about it, we'll go to the fact table sales, we'll apply check on that customer, we'll get the data. So that's the data business needed. Okay, business wants to know who who all customers are basically using what type of product, and for which product we want to increase our sale. Okay, so these are the business decisions they need to make. If you wrongly tested it, wrong data will go to the fact table, wrong data will flow to the reports, and that then finally and will be the wrong decision taken by the business. Okay, so that's where an ETL tester has to play like this testing role, and he has to make sure the data moving from dimensions from the layer wise layer to dimension and facts is correct. From this target layer, we have the final reporting layer where we usually create views, okay, using these fact and dimensions. Or sometimes we directly use these fact and dimensions to the reports also. Depends on your project architecture. Okay, your final views will move to the Power BI, and Power BI and reporting tools. So I'm taking an example of Power BI because I use this Power BI tool in most of the project. So once data is finalized and moved to the reporting tool, there are again some logics, okay, or some dexes, I would say, or some graphical representation will be there on the reports. So that is also a part of testing for an ETL tester. He has to test all the graphical representation, the calculations happening over the report, the UI of report, the filters of report, and export or the schedules of that report. That is also a part of ETL testing, which an ETL tester do. Okay, so that's about the ETL testing. I'll see like what we have next. um, Major ETL tool and techniques I have explained you. Like we have on-prem tools like Informatica, Talent, SSIS, and the Hadoop also. Okay. Now we have cloud ETL tools like this Azure, okay, Azure Data Factory and Azure Databricks, and we do have like AWS also. In AWS, we write our ETL workflow. So this is migration happening everywhere, not in the ETL. We are moving from on-prem to ETL or to cloud basis services, because in cloud cost usually a client save. Okay, whenever you are using some resources, you are paying for it. If those resources are ideal, you won't be paying anything for that. Okay, so now moving to okay, I have explained you like why ETL testing is the key to maintaining data integrity and meeting compliance and standards. I told you like all these things, what we do, what we validate from each layer to layer, and why it is important. Okay, data governance also, like there are some financial and healthcare firms like they have very strict regulations like HIPAA and GDPR. So ETL testing basically adheres, okay, these regulations meet, okay. Like all the data handling, all the data flowing from your hand, okay, you have tested that data. They it makes a trust, okay, yeah, and like for a business, okay, our data is correct and it compliant, and this data we can trust, and we can make use of this data to create our business decision or make our business decisions. Okay, okay, now before moving to the ETL automation part, I'll tell you why this ETL automation came into the picture. Okay, manual testing was a time consuming task. Okay, error prone, yes, like there are chances a human being can miss some data, or we can a large volume of data, if it appears we were not able to test it, million of records are coming, and if they are in different systems, there are chances you missed some of the data points. Okay, limited coverage, inconsistency, and real time data. Yeah, so In manual testing, if any real-time tool like Kafka there, if that is running, you cannot test it because real-time data processing you have to test very frequently. A change came, you have to test it, you need to report it. Okay, but doing manual way, it is not possible. It's not feasible. Okay, so that's where also if I talk about the regression testing. For a manual tester to do a regression testing on an ETL fact or dimension, it will take time. Okay. But on the same side, if an ETL automation script is ready, you just have to hit it. It will give you result in half an hour or 20 minutes or maybe it will take 1 hour. Okay. It depends on the data. So that's where we needed the automation testing. Okay, automation testing will ensure okay a large volume data sets are covered. Okay, using the CI/CD, we can easily handle the versions of data. We can easily test the latest or the frequent changes happening on the data. Okay, other than that, um, like. So suppose I mean, there is a one fact and a one dimension table. You are testing it, but you know same type of fact or dimensions or the same type of rules are applied to other facts and dimensions also. You will write a common code for that. Okay, you will run it. You can test multiple tables in one go. Okay, so that's where we needed this ETL automation. Now what are all the ways? There are multiple tools now in market where which considered as an ETL or test automation tool like query search. Okay, uh, but I mean recently what I observed is using this Azure. Okay, Azure Databricks and Azure Data Factory. It is very easy to automate your ETL testing step by step. Like it will test like from a landing layer to staging or to target. All the three layers you can easily test. Okay, so there is this one framework we have created recently while working for one of the client. Okay, so in this framework, if you see okay, first I'll tell you the project what we were testing. So in that project, the requirement was around thousand views or 1,100 views were moving from a legacy SQL server to the data lake. Okay, so what developers were doing, they were moving these views from the source system to blob storage, the first layer, harvest layer. They were not doing any transformation over there. From harvest, they are moving the views. So now when they move views from sources from the SQL system to the blob storage, they are taking it as a Parquet format, Parquet file format. Okay, Parquet file, the problem with Parquet file is you cannot open it, you cannot read it, you cannot test it. Okay, I'll come to that later. So after harvest layer, they are moving the data from one blob storage location to the next location, which is a classification layer where they were doing some transformations. After classification layer, final layer was the measurement layer. Okay, so what we did, we have created our own ADF pipeline. Okay, we were invoking the developer's pipeline in between, and the final step of the validation was the Databricks node. So if you see, we were creating the mockup tables and views. Okay, in the next step, insertion of the dynamic data into the tables. So onboarding pipeline. So there was one more step I forgot. Client onboarding thing was also happening in that. So we need to prepare our environment to invoking the onboarding pipeline also. So if you see, like in every invoke when we are doing invoking of any pipeline, we were sending a notification also. There are multiple activities in ADF which you can use. You can use if else activity to like if you want to have like two decisions. Okay, if output is correct, Then you move forward. If output is not correct, you can send email notification, and that's it. It will close here. Then if you see here, like invoking the harvest layer pipeline, validation of harvest layer pipeline. So output of this pipeline is all the 1,000 views Parquet files are created or not in the block storage location of harvest layer. We are verifying the that location if all the files are created having latest modified date. Then if they are not, if count of number of files were not matching, or if modified date is not updated, then in those all cases we were failing this activity and sending the email notification. If everything is fine, we are moving to the classification layer. Again, we are doing the same activity. Like if it is okay, then moving forward. Otherwise, if it is false or if it is not meeting the test acceptance criteria, we are sending the email notification. The last step is invoking the data validation notebooks. Okay. So there is this Azure Databricks tool. Okay. In Azure Databricks tool, you can easily write your test scripts. So here you need knowledge on PySpark. Okay, PySpark is an API of Python. So PySpark knowledge you need and Spark SQL knowledge you need. So Spark SQL is somehow somewhat same with the SQL, little syntax difference, but that is okay. If you know SQL, you can easily write the Spark SQL. But yes, PySpark you need to know. So in this data validation notebooks, what we did is we were making the connection to the blob storage where we have the output of classification pipelines. Okay, and we were making the connection to the harvest layer pipeline output also. Okay, so these connections, how you make these connection is you need the key vault and secret access. You need to write these connections detail over your database notebook. That is your first step. You need to connect to these system. Then we were connecting to the source system also. So now three layers we were connecting: the source system, the harvest layer output, and the classification layer output. All the three layers we were connecting. We made the connection successfully. Then in the next step, you need to create these data frames. Data frames are kind of I would say like a storage, a tabular storage, okay, where you can easily read any file from any location and you can store it into the data frames. And there are multiple operations you can do on data frames like you do on your tables. So for an example, uh, data frames you can do accept. Simple data frame of source one, like source one, data frame of harvest one, and data frame of classification one. All the three you are doing except, okay, and seeing if there are any differences coming or not. Okay, you can easily do the count data frame dot count. Okay, so you can print data frame count, so your count validation is also done. Your data validation is easily done doing except all. Now you can check the duplicacy also. You can do data frame count and data frame distinct count on your primary key. You will get it. If both are matches, there are no duplicates. Fourth, after these three, you can easily verify the metadata also of your tables or of your files. Okay, all the columns are correct name or not using the data frame schema function. Okay, df.schema, you can print it. So these data frames are very important. Most of the ETL test scenarios you can easily write using these data frames. And if data frames you are facing some issues, you can convert these data frame to a view also, a simple view like we have in SQL. So there is a command create replace view. So create temp replace view. So it will create a temporary view for you for that data frame, and on that view you can easily write the SQL. So you can easily write like okay SQL select a star from this view and select a star from the temp view of the other source, and then you can easily do accept. So these data for by using this technique you can easily compare, do your validations, and final results also you can write in your SQL server, or you can write it over the CSV files, store it in some test result folder. So final output you have your like all the test results pass or not for all the 1,000 views we have tested, and that's how like our final test results are generated. We have cleaned up our test data, and that's it. So if you see this simple framework, it is very easy to do thousand, or I would say like lakhs or million of data. You can easily do test, converting them to the data frames, compare those data frames, applying simple operations on that data frame, and write your test result into the test result folder in form of CSV, or you can write it in SQL Server also. So this is one of the automation framework we've recently used. Okay, so yeah, I have explained you the half part of your ETL test automation. Okay, now coming to the reporting part. Okay, so we were creating a POC code for one of our clients. They asked us to or to give us some POC on Power BI test report test automation. So we did something. We tried the ways like we search over the internet. Then we decided, okay, we'll go with the Databricks itself. Okay. So there are some Power BI REST APIs, okay, through which you can easily interact with your Power BI report data. Okay, you can retrieve that data, you can check that data. So, but before doing this, you need to export the source data also. Okay, so see, as I told you, like using the data frames, you can compare the data, but first you need to prepare your final source data frame and the final target data frame. So source data frame you will collect from your source the final, I mean, reporting layer of your data warehouse, and you'll store it in some data frame. Now using this Power BI REST API, it will give you a JSON type of data. You can easily read JSON data also in the data frame. So that is the quality of this framework. Using this framework, you can read any type of data. You can read CSV, you can read Parquet, you can read JSON, you can read flat files. So you read it, you store it, you modify it, and then you can easily compare it. Okay, so Power BI REST APIs were there. We used it. We retrieved the report data, but we were able to compare only the data part of the Power BI report. So if I will say like, okay, there is some graphical representation over the Power BI report. If I export the data for that graph, it will give me a tabular data, and that data we will compare with the source, means with the reporting layer, the data we are getting from the source system, or I will say data warehouse. So you can easily compare the data of the Power BI if it is correct or not. If data is correct, then okay, final calculated values will also be correct. Okay, you can compare it. You can see like if data consistency is there, there is no data loss between moving from reporting layer to the Power BI tool, and like data integrity is there. Okay, so that part we were able to complete, and we shared the POC with the client. So that's it. I mean, that's about the manual and automation part. um, I think, yeah, I mean, that's it from my end.
Yeah, thank you so much, Varun, for such an insightful session. I think we hope the information shared today has been insightful and helpful for everybody who's been joined today. And I think it's time for our Q&A session.
Sure.
So let me see. There are a few questions which I have got in my chat box. Let's
Mhm.
answer few of them. See, I'll tell everybody here because we have a constraint of a time here, so we won't be able to take all the questions. But I'm just taking few of them so that if other questions will be left unattended, we'll give them responses later after this session. So, Varun, I've got one question which seems quite interesting. That is, what are some challenges you might face when automating ETL testing?
So, okay. So Any automation, if you start, I mean, if you start automating your manual test scenarios or manual test cases to the automated test scenarios, the major challenge is like is your environment. If that environment on which you are doing testing, like in few cases we observe that banking and financial firms, they are not okay to share up their data to some tool. Okay, if you want to use query search, or if you want to use, suppose this as your data factory or Databricks, they won't allow you. So that is one challenge. If you get the approval on it, like okay, you can use this automation tool and you can validate our data. Second challenge is like you this like query language, scripting language, if you are good with it or not. That is again a challenge moving from SQL, because an ETL tester you are good with SQL, but moving to the any scripting language, it's sometimes it's little uh, tough. You need to learn it and you need to do it. Third thing is, even you have the your environment ready, you have the automation script is ready. Now making the connections to the databases or to the source systems, sometimes your company allowed you, okay, we are allowing you to use our environment, but in this ETL testing, you need to connect to the source systems also. So source systems are again further like third organizations. You need to seek permissions for them, like for this seek permission from them also. So these are few challenges like we faced, and while doing this like this ETL test automation.
Great, great. I think the person who asked this question have got the answer for this.
Okay.
And we have our next question, which is, what role does continuous integration or continuous deployment play in ETL testing automation?
Okay. Okay. So CI/CD, as you okay, if you read about the CI/CD thing, it is continuous integration, continuous deployment. So as name suggests, continue it will CI/CD will help you to deploy your ETL test scripts what you are creating. Okay, and in a continuous way means like you are done with your changes in the script, you will deploy it, you run something, you got to know, okay, some bug is there in my script, I'll fix and it will deploy. Okay, so CI/CD will help you to a continuous deployment. Also, the challenge which I told you doing the manual testing in a real-time world, a real-time processing data tool, you cannot test it manually. You cannot test like okay, some changes happened in the source. You have to test it right now and give the test result. By using the CI/CD, you can easily do it, and you can handle the real-time processing.
Got it. Got it. I think that clarifies the question here. Now, I'm just gonna take a last question because we are running out of our time, and then we'll wind up quickly.
Mhm.
So let's take our last question. We discuss how can validate data in Power BI report automation test. What about the UI part?
I was thinking it. I mean, I was thinking it like this question will come. So as I told you, like we did this POC and we have validated the data behind the Power BI report. Now on Power BI, you just need to you need not to only validate the data. You need to verify the UI also.
Hmm.
So for UI, I would suggest you can use some functional UI tools like Selenium. You can easily verify the filters, the UI aspect of the Power BI report. But I am again not sure if using Selenium you can validate the data. For the data, the thing which I told you, like the Power BI REST API, or there are other ways also doing it through the other tool. But the UI aspect of the Power BI report, you need to use some functional UI. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Varun. And I actually want to thank all of our audience today for these kind of great questions and their participation, and to our main speaker, of course, for answering them with such a clarity. I hope all the questions and all the information have got them a clarity what to do with the ETL testing now. And Right. I think it's time for wrapping up our session for today. As we wrap up, I would like to remind everyone that the recording of the session will be published on our YouTube channel. So you can go ahead there and watch our complete session any time. If you missed any of this part, or if you want to get any sort of questions to be answered, you can send us directly, and maybe Varun will answer them to you over the email,
Sure.
and we'll interact, right? Okay, then we're looking forward to stay connected, and please don't hesitate to reach out for any further queries or discussions. We are happy to organize these kind of webinar that are very informative for all of us. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Varun, for this
Thank you.
very insightful session. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks. Bye bye.